Okay, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. My name is Rachel Maitland and I'm the Education Coordinator here at Sydney Olympic Park. Welcome to the Armoury Theatre and also to the 2014 Youth Eco Summit. In the theatre with us today we have Holroyd High School, Jasper Road Public School and Greystanes High School. And also a big shout out to those students joining us on live feed via YouTube. Today you will get to see the hard work and dedication that students from the Illawarra Grammar School have put into their World Parks Congress Fuse project. I'd now like to introduce Dan Nichols from the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service, who will explain a bit more about the project and also introduce the students to you.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning, everyone. Fuse is a program that has been developed by the New South Wales National Parks and Wildlife Service to link secondary schools to a major global conservation event occurring in Sydney or starting in Sydney in just 3 weeks' time. The World Parks Congress is held just once every 10 years by the International Union for the Conservation of Nature, the IUCN. The Congress will see conservation agencies like national parks here in New South Wales from all over the world coming to Sydney, park managers, researchers, scientists, all looking at, discussing, debating what we should be focusing on, what we should be working towards over the next 10 years for conservation sustainability. In line with Stream 8 of the Congress, which is the Inspiring a New Generation stream, this program, Fuse, has been developed to include the voice of young people at this year's World Parks Congress. Students from New South Wales secondary schools have been asked to investigate topics that will be debated and discussed at the Congress. Stream 2 of the Congress is responding to climate change. It is likely that the rate of climate change will be so great that preventing change to ecosystems will be impossible. We will instead need to consider what level of change is acceptable and what values of an area we most want to conserve. Students from the Illawarra Grammar School have used interviews, surveys and field work to find out how biodiversity managers, park rangers and the community prioritise the environmental and social values of a protected area, in this case focusing on Minnamurra rainforest. They have been researching possible future management options that will help maintain those key values. I'd like to introduce Ishara, Denali, Gordon, Uma, Georgia, Chloe and Angus, and my apologies for the ones I've missed, to detail their research, introduce their inspiring solution and their love story video to engage people in this challenging topic.
Thank you very much. The Minnamurra Falls Rainforest is a small area of rainforest located in the deep northeast facing canyon at the foot of the steep Illawarra escarpment on the eastern edge of Butteroo National Park, 29 kilometres west of the coastal city of Kiama. Minnamurra Falls Rainforest is home to a unique community of subtropical and warm temperate rainforest plants and animals. Above the falls, Butteroo National Park supports communities of wet sclerophyll, forests, grassy woodlands and heath. The biodiversity of the rainforest is significant. More than 80 species of trees have been identified and 2/3 of all ferns found in New South Wales are found in this canyon. The rainforest supports remnants of one of 5 major areas of New South Wales rainforests growing at the time of European settlement. Located within a 401 hectare gully, the rainforest community thrives in microclimatic conditions that are due to its unique geology, topography and hydrology. Within the rainforest, temperatures are milder than outside and humidity is higher. The aspect of towering escarpment protects the rainforest from desiccating westerly winds and acts to increase rainfall through the orographic effect. Rainfall inside the rainforest averages between 1,600 and 1,800 millimetres, while the coastal city of Kiama only gets an average 1,200 millimetres.
The source of the Minnamurra River, the lifeblood of the rainforest, is Knights Hill, at an elevation of 709 metres at the top of the Illawarra Escarpment. The canyon that the rainforest occupies has been carved out of the Hawkesbury sandstone by millions of years of weathering and erosion that have created steep cliffs and a series of waterfalls. The Minamara River provides much of the moisture required by the subtropical plant species, but not only in the form of running water, but mist. Relative humidity readings in the rainforest are significantly higher than those outside of the canyon. On the day fieldwork was carried out, relative humidity inside the rainforest was 90%, and 200 metres down the road it was 60%. Minamara is the most southern limit for many of the plants found within the rainforest that is home to a range of vulnerable and endangered species. For example, the vulnerable waterfall greenhood orchid is found in the mist zone, clinging to cliff bases close to waterfalls, and the rare lesser creeping fern was found in the rainforest as recently as 2005.
Fieldwork carried out within the rainforest revealed 4 distinctive layers of vegetation: the forest floor, shrubs, canopy, and emergence. Leaves of the trees are soft, broad-leafed, and evergreen. The trees are tall, and some have buttressed roots, and all strive for the light above the canopy. Rope-like vines are common, especially near watercourses and clearings. Ferns are prolific, especially in the wetter areas. Epiphytes are found perched on high branches, taking advantage of available light and moisture. The forest floor is covered in leaf litter, which decomposes to add rich nutrients to the soil. Soils are well-drained sandy loams. Minamara rainforest is a unique and valuable ecosystem.
It's difficult to predict specific and exact impacts of climate change on a particular ecosystem such as Minamara rainforest. However, research suggests that for coastal areas in southeastern New South Wales, climate change will result in an increase in variation and seasonality of both temperature and rainfall. It is predicted that temperatures will increase in all seasons. In autumn, winter and spring, maximum daily temperatures will increase by between 2 to 3 degrees, and summer maximum daily temperatures will increase by between 1.5 to 2. Importantly, changes to the seasonality of rainfall need to be considered. It is predicted that summer rainfall will increase by between 20 to 50%, and autumn rainfall will increase by between 5 to 20%. Rainfall in winter isn't expected to change. These predictions indicate a trend to increased seasonality of rainfall. Rainforests depend on moist conditions all year round. Australia's climate is inherently variable. 2014 is a good example of how variable rainfall can be. A visit to the rainforest in July this year, after a prolonged dry period, revealed signs of stress, such as leaf fall, low flow rates in the river, and low levels of relative humidity. While increased temperatures of rainfall may at first be seen as positives for the rainforest, it needs to be remembered that this forest has evolved in relatively cooler and drier conditions, and less pronounced seasonal variation in average rainfall.
The rainforest at Minamara is relatively small, and because most of the species there are at their most southern limit, it is inherently vulnerable to any change. Other associated impacts of climate change, such as the increased incidence of severe weather events and bushfires, could have significant impacts on the delicate functioning of the rainforest ecosystem at Minamara. Storms can bring down forest giants, such as strangler figs. This leaves a gap in the canopy that allows in more light and therefore more favourable conditions for the spread of weeds, such as wandering dew, Cape ivy, and lantana. Heavy storms could also increase runoff and result in slope failure at worst, which could result in the localised extinction of the delicate waterfall greenhood orchid. Bushfires have been a threat in the past, such as those in 1961, and could enter the park from adjacent areas of dry sclerophyll forest. Unlike the sclerophyll forest, Trees in the rainforest are not adapted to fire. It is clear that the Minamara rainforest needs a steady flow of clean, fresh water to not only support the riparian vegetation and aquatic biodiversity, but also to provide essential humidity into the atmosphere to nourish the many ferns, orchids, and epiphytes that rely on the high levels of relative humidity. The leaves of the rainforest trees are mesomorphic, meaning that they are soft with little fibrous tissue and not adapted to dry conditions. Changes in temperature extremes and rainfall distribution could have serious impacts on the nature and functioning of the ecosystem. Changes in species composition could result due to unfavourable conditions for the most delicate species.
All rainforests have economic, recreational, educational, and scientific values. In late September, early October, we conducted a survey of approximately 100 visitors to the park, 46 adults and 50 students. The majority of respondents of our survey came from the local area, followed by Sydney region, interstate, and small amount from overseas. A small amount of respondents had visited the rainforest more than 10 times, but for approximately 1/3 of respondents, this visit was their first. Students were aged between 7 to 16, and the majority of our adult respondents were aged between 29 to 59. It is clear that biodiversity is valued most by students and adults. Visiting the Minamara rainforest, and adults visiting the Minamara rainforest. Students valued animal life in particular, even though they don't get to see much animal life other than lyrebirds, whose role is to turn over the soil in the search for invertebrates, such as beetles and worms. The following video shows how a lyrebird does that. The Minamara River and waterfalls are also highly valued by respondents. 70% of respondents believe that human-induced climate change is occurring and that climate change will impact significantly on the things they value about the rainforest.
Similar sentiments were expressed by long-term local resident Dorothy O'Keefe, whose family has been closely associated with the Minamara Falls area since the latter part of the 19th century. Dorothy, however, believes that the current level of tourism to the rainforest is very unsustainable. Dorothy's main concerns relate to the water usage associated with the some 85,000 visitors to the park each year. The water used to flush the toilets is extracted from a small tributary of the Minamara River. The community expects the managers of the rainforest to undertake a number of strategies to protect and conserve the biodiversity of the rainforest. These strategies include the revegetation of key species, ongoing monitoring of vulnerable and endangered species, the development of weed management programs, the implementation of a quota system to reduce the impacts of visitors on the rainforest, and the mandatory washing of shoes prior to entry to reduce the possibility of introduction of exotic species.
After completing this research project, we have considered a range of strategies that could reduce the impacts of climate change on the biodiversity and hydrology of the Minamara rainforest. Because there is little certainty of the exact impacts of climate change on this ecosystem, it is best to prepare a range of strategies that could be applied to a number of possible scenarios. We agree with the community that managers can continue to undertake a range of policies that could help offset some effects of climate change and introduce new measures.
In addition, we believe that safeguarding the supply of water to the rainforest should be a priority. Water is the lifeblood of the rainforest. We recommend a range of strategies that would address this. The determination of an environmental flow for the Minamara that recognises the demands of the rainforest. A review of all water licences upstream of the forest. a requirement that holders of the water licences make full use of available rainwater and install rainwater tanks. The New South Wales Government could offer subsidies to achieve this. The installation of waterless toilets and rainwater tanks at Minamara Rainforest Visitor Centre to reduce the dependence on the Minamara River.
Although climate change is unpredictable at this point in time, by implementing the strategies shown in our research, we are able to be more prepared for what climate change may bring. And this all starts with our love for nature. Impacts of climate change by falling out of love with consumption and fall in love with nature.
Change.
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 For a better world.
Okay, wow. Thank you very much for that really interesting and inspiring video and presentation, the Illawarra Grammar School. We're now going to have a short discussion and question time, which I'll hand over to Dan to start off with first.
Thanks very much, Rachel. A great deal of research and time spent with those people looking after and associated with the Minamara rainforest. I just wonder to start off with, one of the things we're looking at, of course, is the things that people value about that area. Do you guys have any particular values, or have you, through this process, identified any particular part of that rainforest or elements of it that you've connected with, that you would say are most important to you?
Well, when we first went to...
yeah, that's true. Who was talking about the variation in rainfall, and particularly in July when you went to see it? Yeah.
Yep, so in July, a couple of us went to the rainforest and we noticed that it looked very dry compared to previous visits. But in September when we visited, we noticed that it had been raining a couple of weeks before that, and you could see the difference in the aesthetic beauty of the rainforest.
I was speaking with one of the people working down there, and they said through July they got 10% of the average rainfall in that period. So it was really a very unusual, and that's what you talked about, the variability that we can expect, the very greater variability. The managers there, the people you spoke to who are working with there, are their values, do you think, reflect the same as the community, or do they have different concerns and issues?
Yeah, because considering that we surveyed over 100 people, that gives a broad range of values, and biodiversity was ranked as the highest, and especially considering that every day they're working there, they're experiencing what the rainforest experiences, I believe that would be ranked as equally as high, and maybe because they have more of a connection with it, they could value the other things slightly more than the other community, but overall I do believe that everyone, the whole community, has the same thing.
I think we all value the same parts of the rainforest. I think it's just the way we choose to implement strategies of preserving it. We did speak to Dorothy, she had a very different strategy to ours. Hers was clearly just to not let the park be visited and let it preserve itself. However, we have thought of strategies of ways that we can all enjoy the rainforest and preserve it at the same time, which I thought was really different to see those two views of someone who enjoys it as much as we do, but they're a different way of preserving it.
Yes, and I think, as you say, if it's water flows, then there are things that perhaps can be done to change, to maintain the water flows. And perhaps is there someone...
Any questions from the audience?
So, like, I can't remember quite my question. So, in the areas that are protected, like there are protected characteristics that are valued, what do you find the most surprising and unexpected?
Okay, so the most surprising through the survey, yes. Was there anything that you didn't expect people to express concern that was a surprise?
That if we look after the species, then that will soon lead to the whole rainforest being looked after. So we've just got to start at the roots of the rainforest and what makes it so unique, and then we'll end up preserving it all.
Another question?
Is the Minamara rainforest condition deteriorating? And if so, what are the biggest factors that make it deteriorate?
So when we went there in July, obviously there was the conditions were dry, and the rainforest seemed very stressed and not as a typical rainforest should be. So that was surprising, and also as well, the water for the toilets is taken out of the river. So we wanted to find a strategy that helped that and solved that issue with the waterless toilets.
Yes, the water, everybody around that area is using water from the river, and the water is what feeds the rainforest and keeps it there for us to enjoy. So if people are continuing to use the water, and as we said, 85,000 people a year are visiting and using the toilet blocks and things like that, it is going to deteriorate. So that's why we thought of waterless toilets, and even licences to use the river water may need to be implemented.
Also, like we mentioned with storms, they actually take a lot out of the plant life, and because of that you can have huge openings in the canopies that bring in more sunlight, what can sometimes be a good thing if there's been a lot of rain lately, but like Denali said, we only had 10% in that July compared to other years, and that could also be a very bad thing for some plant life across the ground because they don't get as much sun if they get too much, but it'll obviously destroy the way they're going.
So besides water, what I think is actually maybe climate change, our topic climate change is actually the main contributing factor of this deterioration and stuff. So probably I think all of us are responsible for this change and this kind of destroyed not abnormal environment in the rainforest. So human factor and our lifestyle, our modern lifestyle, maybe one of the factors that deteriorates the rainforest.
Thank you very much. Please for the students from Illawarra Grammar School. Well done, guys. As we sign off from now, we'd really like to express our appreciation and gratefulness for the time, the effort, the energy, the creativity of all the students, those here representing the other groups, the dedicated teachers who've put their time into this, the mentors that have helped with the groups, and also to the people at the protected areas that have been visited by people taking part in the FUSE program: Sydney Olympic Park Authority, Minamara Rainforest, Royal National Park and Mungo National Park. With this project, we wanted to set the students a challenging and engaging task that would reflect the real-world challenges being investigated and tackled at the World Parks Congress starting in just 3 weeks. We wanted to be ambitious, with those tasks, and all the groups involved have responded so well and enthusiastically. So again, a huge thanks. Give them a round of applause, these guys, just as representatives of everyone else. The good news is there's another chance to tell the story again. This time it will be to a global audience at the World Parks Congress in just a few weeks' time. The World Parks Congress starts on the 12th of November and will run for a full week, and the community in Sydney and around Australia can get involved. If you're in Sydney at the time, sort of over the web, there'll be lots of sessions and information available. But if you're in and around Sydney, on Sunday the 16th of November, Planet Fest will be being held here at Sydney Olympic Park, which will invite people, the general community, to be part of the World Parks Congress, particularly at Cathy Freeman Park where Planet Fest will be. There'll be activities for families of all ages. There'll be a pop-up park, which I've only seen some architects' images of, which looks really interesting. And inside the Congress exhibition spaces, there'll be displays and interactive information from national parks and conservation organisations from around the world. So if you have the opportunity, please get involved with the World Parks Congress. It'll be 10 years before the next one comes around. Thanks again. Thank you very much.